Hey guys, hello, welcome to another episode of The Digital Rush. As always, I'm Krista Tidman.
Brandon Cooper, of course.
And
Steven Stanzak.
Yes, so we have, this is kind of like a special edition, we like to say. So Steven came all the way from New York City. So we're in Philadelphia, if you guys didn't know already. And Steven's here just to have a collab with us. And we want to talk more about, the competitive analysis side of an SEO standpoint. So Steven, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, how do you feel today?
Feeling great.
Yeah.
So nice sunny day in Philadelphia area. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Yes. And as always, B. Coop is here, Father Coop. Yeah. So, yeah, right. So could you just tell us, Steven, just a little bit more about what we're going to discuss today, just so everyone knows?
Yeah, absolutely. So today we're going to talk about competitive analysis from an SEO standpoint, but we're going to approach it from a slightly different angle. So we're not going to touch or cover too much in depth around the more traditional aspects of backlink analysis, keyword rankings, and things of that, but we're going to really approach it from an on-SERP SEO standpoint and talk more about competitive analysis and how to find things like featured snippets, rich results, Google My Business, things along those lines.
And so as an SEO yourself and a consultant, are you also going to dive into the tool, right? Semrush and how you use it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to talk about the tool and show you how, if you don't already know how to find SERP features, specifically featured snippets of competitors on the tool, so that you can get a better sense of how to incorporate that into your competitive strategy, and also get a good sense of what are the competitors that you could look to overtake in terms of ones that are basically outperforming you in terms of winning the featured snippets.
Exactly. Okay, awesome. So we're going to get into it, and let's jump into the slides. So thank you guys. Just one moment. Okay. So here we go. Let's use that.
Okay, great. So as we mentioned today, we're going to be talking about competitive analysis, but really talking about competitive analysis from a slightly different angle. So I think a lot of you on the webinar are pretty familiar with traditional SEO competitive analysis. So
one second. It seems like we're having
a little
technical, Brian. How do we? And we're back.
Hi, don't worry, fix it.
Okay, so hey, little glitches happen.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Right. That's where we were. All right.
All right, we're back. We have some glitches sometimes. It's life. Hey. All right, so Steven, where were you?
All right, great. So is that fine?
Yeah. Just go back. You're good. Okay.
Okay, so as we mentioned, I think most of you on the webinar are probably pretty familiar with what traditional SEO competitive analysis is. So we certainly want to touch on that, but we really want to go beyond that in today's webinar and talk about competitive analysis in the SEO realm from a slightly different angle. So just to touch on, to kind of lay the groundwork for the presentation, let's talk about traditional SEO competitive analysis from a high level, and then, as we mentioned, talk about more specific ways of looking at competitive analysis from an on-SERP aspect. So what you're looking at from traditional SEO competitive analysis is a lot of, some of the main things here are backlink analysis, of course. So this is, of course, looking at what external sites are linking to one or more competitors, and then you can use that information to incorporate into your link building strategy. Another good use of backlink analysis is looking at what content strategy you want to go forth with based on what are the best performing pieces of content from competitors using their backlink profile to ascertain that. So that's really important. Secondly, gap analysis is a part of traditional SEO, and that's looking at what are the keywords that one or more competitors are ranking for, that maybe you or your client aren't ranking for, and then using that information to incorporate that into your SEO plan. Gap analysis can also look at what are the referring domains that are linking out to one or more of your competitors, and looking at that to look at where are some places that you could increase your backlink profile. Another area of traditional SEO that we won't dive into deeply today, but just wanted to touch on, was ranking position. So that's a pretty self-explanatory one. Where are you kind of vis-a-vis your competitors in competitive analysis? And then another thing that I typically incorporate into most of my competitive analysis reports is top pages. So that's what are the top pages based on the most organic traffic that they're generating, which is estimated typically with monthly search volume and estimated click-through rate if it's not your own tool. So those are all great things. I definitely incorporate those into all of the competitive analysis reports that I do. But I think to really be in the top tier of SEOs, you have to go beyond that these days. And the reason why is because SEO from traditional aspect is changing. Google is really changing as well. The SERPs, the search engine results page, are no longer 10 blue links. Nowadays, you're getting more answers, of course, directly on SERPs. And no-click searches are increasing as well. So we're seeing more and more where the answers, since they are being more and more displayed directly on the search engine results page, that's leading to less clicks from some searches. So given all those changes, you have to also make sure that your competitive analysis changes, that it evolves in the kind of ever-changing landscape. So actually, according to SparkToro and JumpShot, 47% of Google searches now result in 0 clicks. So that said, you can still use this information to get more clicks, because from the existing clicks that people are still clicking through to, you can increase those clicks compared to your competitors if you implement some of the things we're going to talk about today in the webinar. So instead, what we're going to focus on is more on-SERP competitive analysis. So this is going to look at competitive analysis from an on-SERP SEO standpoint. So really what this is looking at what are those more visual elements, those newer informational boxes that are coming up, those SERP features that are more and more prevalent on search engine results listings at this point. So those are things such as featured snippets, which will go into all of these rich results, Google My Business listings, and overall other SERP features. So these are all things that we're trying to really optimize, and really to make sure that we are putting ourselves out there and getting in the most amount of boxes that we can. So we're giving ourselves the best chance to gain those existing clicks, because as we mentioned, we are seeing less clicks per search, all things else being equal. So really, if you're just optimizing for the traditional kind of blue link SEO and the organic links, you're not going to get the results that you did in the past. So you really want to make sure you incorporate all of this in addition to the traditional competitive analysis from SEO that I mentioned is still important. And then I think if you really incorporate these both, you're going to have really solid competitive analysis reports, and you're going to be above 95, maybe 99% of what most kind of SEOs, whether it's an agency or an in-house, are doing for their report. So you'll get kind of better reports, you'll get more clients, and just better results. So before we dive into the meat of the presentation, just wanted to introduce myself. Mentioned it briefly at the beginning, but I'm Steven. I'm the principal at OnDeer Marketing. So basically, we're a search engine marketing agency based in New York. We focus on AdWords and SEO. Most of our clients are in food and beverage, but we do work with clients in other industries. I started in SEO about 7 years ago when I was at GE, and I started for one of their divisions, the AdWords and SEO projects there. And I've been doing it ever since in many different capacities. I eventually started my own blog, started writing about it there, started taking on some smaller projects, some pro bono work, and then that turned into kind of small paid projects, and then it really just organically became an agency from that. So for the last year and a half, I've been focusing specifically on OnDeer. And as you see, we have a picture here from the Semrush live event we did in Brooklyn just a few months.
Yeah, that bright orange.
Bright orange lanyard, exactly. So if you have any questions about anything we speak about, feel free to drop me a line. That's our social account handle for all the different social accounts. We're on all of them, most all of them. And then, of course, the email there as well. And we will be sending out the slides too. So if you just want to reference the slides later on, we will be sending those out. Okay, so today, kind of as we spoke about, we're going to focus on SERP competitive analysis. So there's really 3 areas that we're going to go over and talk about, how you can win those boxes that are showing up more and more from competitors. So one is, how do you win the featured snippet, and how do you get into that position 0 above even organic position 1? So first, we're going to look at how do you find what featured snippets competitors are showing for, and then basically overtake them, or just use that to incorporate into your strategy. Secondly, we're going to go into rich results, talk about what those are, a great way to stand out in search in the organic listings, and then look at some rich results of competitors and how you can kind of reverse engineer their schema markup and then incorporate that into your own site. And lastly, something that I see more and more features coming out for Google My Business, and I also see a lot of clients and competitors of clients that are not really leveraging Google My Business to its fullest. So this is something that we're going to go over, because I think the implications of Google My Business are really big, and it's becoming more and more of an important part of SERP SEO. So if you're not optimizing your Google My Business account, or your knowledge panel, which is kind of similar for like a more established company, then I really don't think that you're doing a great job with competitive analysis or advanced SEO in general. So I would definitely make sure that you incorporate kind of all of these into any different SEO plans and any different kind of competitive reports that you're doing for yourself or for a client. So the first thing that we'll touch on is how you find competitors' featured snippets and win position 0. So what is a featured snippet? So just to kind of level set, I'm sure a lot of people know what this is, but we'll just briefly cover this. A featured snippet, it's an excerpt of a web page. It's typically found, or always found, on top of the SERPs, the search engine results pages. And it answers a searcher's query right then and there in the search results. So it's typically in either a paragraph format or a list or a table. As you can see here, there's a list on the right side. And not every result has it, but around, I've heard different kind of stats. It seems between like 12 and 30% have them, depending on what industry that you're in. So here you'll see, if you do a search for like health benefits of probiotics, for example, you'll see that this is the featured snippet that comes up. So this is one from Healthline, which wins a lot of featured snippets. So if you are looking at a good site to basically emulate or take some tips from, this is definitely one to really study, because they do a great job in SEO in general, but also in getting a lot of featured snippets. So here you see a list featured snippet, and you want to make sure that you have more than just 4 or 5 things in your list. Here they have 8. Because then you are going to win more clicks, because for someone to see the full list and see all the health benefits for probiotics, they have to click through to that. Some of the more basic feature snippet answers, like how old is someone, like what is the weather, maybe like a time zone conversion. That's something that more you'll see that those basic answers, I don't even know if at this point if I would optimize for those, because those are really not leading to a lot of click-through, because you're getting the full kind of basic information right then and there. So a featured snippet for a more complex topic, where they have to link through to your website to get the full answer, is really the best thing that you want to be going after. Another thing I wanted to kind of note here is that a lot of times you'll see that the image, which is obviously circled here, is from a different source than the actual article that's referenced in the featured snippet. So that's another area too, where you can optimize for images in featured snippets. And even if you're maybe having trouble getting the text featured snippet, you can also optimize for the image featured snippet, or you should try to be getting both. But this website here, perlmanclinic.com, is probably pulling a fair amount and siphoning off a fair amount of traffic from Healthline, even though most people would probably just assume that they're getting 100% of the traffic from people who are clicking on this featured snippet, but in fact they're not.
just to talk about that too, like looking at it yourself, thinking about users, they would probably not even look at the link underneath, the image and just think it's obviously them and go to it, just because the image is larger, and they can't even really see. Sometimes, you can't even really see the text or the link. So that is funny how that happens.
Yeah.
So would you suggest obviously optimizing for both? Making sure that you're optimizing for image as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And to optimize for the image, it's pretty similar to optimizing for the actual text part of the featured snippet. So you really should have clean HTML, have typically an H2 or an H3 header above the image if you can, that's speaking to the query that the image is related to.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you have that maybe above or below like the list or the table that you're optimizing for the text part of the featured snippet, that's really the best route to go about it.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Just wanted to touch on that because it's interesting.
Yeah, and also, I mean, that image, whether you like it or not, is going to be associated with your article. So that's another thing. It might be like maybe even an image that's not even super related, because everything is done on an algorithmic scale right now, and Google's smart, but they're not perfect.
Like, what would you say to someone just bouncing off that, that was optimized, they have the featured snippet, but like you said, it's not their image, it's somebody else. What if it's a competitor? What do you do then?
No, that happens all the time.
What would you say?
I think you just need to, if you don't have, if you're not optimizing for your image, I think one, you should add more high quality images onto the page.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they should be structured into the HTML. And I know this gets a little bit into the weeds, but basically structured into the web page where it's very easy for Google to crawl them. Obviously, you want to put alt text, so all the regular kind of image optimization for SEO. You want to add alt text. You want to name the file name something that's descriptive. But beyond those basics, you want to make sure that the image is close to a header that is mentioning the query.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, in this case, I don't think Healthline has a lot of images on their articles.
That one article.
So that's why they might not have any.
Oh.
So for them, I would probably put an image, because I know they don't have an image, because I clicked through this article the other day, and they don't have an image that's right below the title of the article. So
Mm-hmm.
if they did, that's what I would recommend for them. To have that in their article and have it, towards the top, optimized for everything else from an image standpoint. But the thing specifically for featured snippets is I would have it close to a heading that has the search query that you're optimizing for.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
A lot of insight there, guys. Hope you're
Oh,
ready.
yeah.
Yeah, this is
That's a
recorded,
lot.
by the
Yeah,
way.
don't
This
worry.
is recorded. Yeah.
Okay, and then in terms of how this can lead to some actual results, because that's at the end of the day, it's not about getting the pretty featured snippet or a rich result, but it's about driving kind of traffic and results to your business. HubSpot actually found that click-through rate to the HubSpot website increased by over 114% when they occupied the featured snippet, and that's even when they had the #1 result.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of talk about that. Featured snippets and SERP features are taking clicks away from organic search, which is the case. But they found that actually overall, the traffic to their website listing that was on the search results, when they calculated from the organic result, that was still obviously getting some traffic, and the featured snippet, that it did actually increase. So overall, the traffic to their regular organic listing dropped. When you add the traffic that they got from the featured snippet, it increased by 2x.
Wow.
So now we can talk a little bit about how to find competitors' featured snippets, because when you're looking at competitive analysis, you're going to want to first look at what are the featured snippets of competitors. And the tool that I love to use, obviously, no surprise, is Semrush for this. They really do a great job in terms of providing tons of information, tons of value, tons of insights around featured snippets. So if we want to maybe transition into the tool,
Oh yeah.
if we want to, we can actually go live. So I think.
Could you?
But basically, to look at featured snippets, one thing that you can do is look at the position tracking tool. So with the position tracking tool, you first set up a project, right? And you set up your keywords just like you would for any project.
Mm-hmm.
And then Semrush has just a lot of really great tools for it. So to get like an overview, you can just start on the landscape tab. If you scroll down about halfway down the page, you'll see there's this nice graph with all the SERP features. And feature snippets is this crown icon right here. So here you can see for the 50 keywords that we're tracking in this example for HubSpot, they are ranking for 2 featured snippets, but there's actually 15 featured snippets out of those 50 keywords. So there's 13 more that they could win that Google's showing featured snippets for that they're not showing up for. So that's some analysis that you can take back to whoever is the kind of key person that you're reporting out to for this. To get even more specific, you can go over to the Overview tab. And this shows a really nice view where if you scroll down the table, I love where you can see where you are. So assuming that we're HubSpot and these are our competitors, we have some competitors listed out here, and they may not be direct competitors of HubSpot, but just for display purposes, basically you can see here the featured snippet, where they are ranking for a featured snippet. If they are ranking for it, HubSpot, you'll see that they have the crown here. If they're not, there will be no crown. And you can see if the others are ranking for them, then you will basically see them under their columns too.
Or right next to them. So in that column, and if you just want to pinpoint very easily, we have a lot of filters in Semrush, as you guys know. But down here, you could see, we kind of like make it bold so it's easier. So there's 15 out there. And if you just want to focus on the featured snippets and the keywords below that have them, just click on that option. And that's always going to be a crown. And there they are, like if we find them for you, which ones are a featured snippet. So you would have to scroll, to find your competitors, like what terms do they have. And so for that one, for example, like marketing automation basics. And if I want to see, what does that look like? And I know you also view the SERP a lot, right,
yeah,
Stephen?
You have to.
And we love that it's live. It tells you exactly, we found it. And so down here, here's their featured snippet.
Yes, this is a perfect example. You could go back to HubSpot if you're your client, or if you're in-house working for HubSpot, then you can basically show them that Marketo is winning this featured snippet, and then you can go forth and try to win that from them. And we'll talk a little bit about some best practices for winning a featured snippet later on in the presentation. Another thing though, before we get out of the tools, I wanted to also show how you can also see it in some different tools like the keyword analysis tools. So like Keyword Magic Tool, for example, you can see it also in here as well. So if you're in the Keyword Magic Tool, for example, and you want to look at it, maybe not from a competitive analysis standpoint, but more from a what are the featured snippet or other SERP features that are associated with different keywords that you're trying to target. You do it here, so Christine can probably explain it better.
No. So we chose whole grain bread, and we just want to choose, what SERP features. So featured snippet. After filtering that, we found which ones actually have that feature right there. And if you hover over the SERP feature column, we also provide you with what other SERP features are out there, not just the featured snippet. So it saves you time with, you're an SEO specialist, you're consulting. I want to know now what terms have that. We know off the bat, and we tell you right here at the top. So 225. And this is awesome just to get this very quickly, seeing that average search volume per month, and also checking out that keyword difficulty. Were you going to say something, Bran?
Yeah, so another really, really good thing about this when it comes to SERP features is actually going to the results on the search engine result page itself as well.
The SERP features.
To get an idea of what is actually being featured there. Because it's great, yeah, you can see that this keyword, for instance, this one, is there, but you kind of want to see the content behind it so you know how to approach it. Right?
What does it look like? What image? Yeah. Hey, they have an image. I don't know if it's them, but it actually isn't. Again, look, it's minimalist baker.
So what you're doing at this point through our keyword research tool is you're essentially just searching the SERPs on a national level for this data. That's really all you're doing. When you're going through here, you'll get an idea of what is here. Yeah, whether there's videos showing up, featured images, everything you can think of. So
yeah, so this is absolutely great. And you can also, I would recommend clicking through to the actual article to see how it's structured too. So I don't think we need to do that now, but I would also look at, as we've kind of looked at some of these SERPs that came up, you've seen that they've all been lists. Sometimes they're numbered lists, sometimes they're bullets, but they've all been lists. So that's something that if I'm trying to compete for SERP features and SERP and feature snippets in this area, then, and it's something that I already do mention to all of my clients, but definitely include lists and tables in your kind of cornerstone content pieces. And then the other thing that I use a lot of times is Semrush sensor tool. So as I mentioned, I work a lot in kind of the food and beverage industry. So if you want to look at SERP features and their occurrences based on an industry standpoint, this is a great tool for that. So here you can see the SERP features and how prevalent they are for an industry. Because a lot of like the research studies that are out there, they're great, but a lot of them are very large studies that are very broad in general. But a lot of you are just working with one company or in one industry. So those general studies won't do you such good, but where you're going to get the best insights and the most accurate insights are if you use tools like this. And there's even a great aspect of this sensor tool where you can actually get a personal score. So if you just want to look at your your different kind of SERP volatility, based on
the project.
Yeah, the project, you can basically get that here. So.
And as long as you have under your position tracking campaign multiple devices and locations set up, even if it's just one, you can go in here, hook it up with that specific project itself, and then what you'll start to get is information based on what the SERP really looks like at this current time. And the whole volatility, as you can tell, is based off of the last 30 days worth of insight.
So here's HubSpot. So just great information if you want to look at how volatile that the SERPs are. And then, as I mentioned, if you want to look at the SERP features by industry, so we can see here that featured snippet, local pack, and knowledge panel are the most prevalent in food and drink. So we can then incorporate those insights into our analysis and our reporting.
Okay.
So great stuff there.
Yeah. And at the top right-hand corner, don't forget, guys, you can subscribe and get those notifications sent to you, especially if something is going on with the volatility. You want to know and be aware of that ahead of time.
And the subscriptions will actually come in push notification form. So if you are logged in, maybe you're on a different platform, you're editing something on your website, whatever it might be, it will actually push a notification right to your browser. Or if you're not, of course, it'll actually just email you, letting you know that there is something going on.
Pretty awesome.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. So now we know that, for example, Marketo is showing up for a featured snippet that we HubSpot want to win. So then how do we take that information and act on it? Well, basically to optimize for the SERP features going forward, scroll through. Here are how you can win some featured snippets from your competitors. So the first thing, if you're prioritizing which different articles to optimize or which pieces of content for your SERP features, one, it's important that you rank well for first. Just need to.
Oh, okay.
Just get the slides up.
Yeah, we tell you guys this is live. I'm not lying to you. Okay, 1 second. I'm just gonna move this. Hey guys, hey, we're here.
Hi.
Just chilling, just hanging out. Okay. All right, now we're back.
Okay. So it looks like we should be good. All right, so just to kind of end up on this topic, how do you win the feature snippets? Well, one, if you're going through for all of your past content, you're not going to get a feature snippet, to be honest, if you don't rank on the front page. 99% of all featured snippets, and I know there's still some issues with the slides, but we're going to basically just...
He's still going to talk, yeah.
So 99% of all featured snippets come from first page listing. So one, you have to rank on the front page. Now, I would still incorporate this into your strategy, for new content. But if you're looking to prioritize existing articles and optimize those for feature snippets, start with the ones that are ranking from 1 to 10. Secondly, you want to make sure that, as we mentioned, you utilize lists and tables as well in your content. So as we talked about, and as we saw in a lot of the live SERP snapshots, that the lists and the tables are what pull a lot of the feature snippet content. So
yeah, you're still good. Keep going.
Yeah, don't worry.
So a lot of it also comes from paragraphs, but that said, you know, you're obviously going to have paragraphs, I think, in most of your articles. So there's not a ton you can do with that.
Okay.
So the second thing is add lists and tables. Thirdly, you want to structure your HTML in a very clean way that just makes it very obvious to Google that it's like a listicle, for example. So that Healthline article that we saw on health benefits for probiotics, what that basically showed was that there every list, every basically point in their list of the 8 health benefits, everyone was an H2, and it was very easily kind of structured on the page in HTML so that Google could very easily parse out what the list is. And then they basically showed that as a SERP snippet, feature snippet. The fourth thing if you want to win a feature snippet is you want to signal answers in the wording. So you basically want to signal, make sure that the wording is clear and that the wording is kind of signaling that you're answering a query, because most featured snippets come from question queries. So the how, what, why, who, etc. So that's something that you want to make sure that you have as well, that you're prioritizing your question queries, because those are going to lead to a lot of featured snippets. And then lastly, look at the feature snippet that you want to actually win. So a lot of times what you'll see is that the feature snippet isn't very specific. We saw here where there's some times where they show different pictures that maybe won't be so related, or you'll see sometimes that they don't actually directly answer the question that the search query is trying to answer. So in that case, you want to just provide a better answer. Just like in content, you want to maybe have skyscraper content or do anything you can to have kind of better content. You also want to do that when you are optimizing for featured snippets. And after you do provide a better answer, you can actually, there's always like a leave feedback little button below every featured snippet. I wouldn't do this as spam for every competitor that has a featured snippet, but if you do go in and you think you have a better answer to that, I would leave some feedback and basically say that this featured snippet is not answering the question in the most helpful way. And then that hopefully will trigger Google to kind of reevaluate what feature snippet that they provide for that query. And then you give yourself, especially if you're ranked on the front page, an answer, kind of go in there and swoop in and get that featured snippet.
Yeah, definitely. And
so just for everybody's knowledge, as we said before, yes, we're having some issues with the slides. We are going to be setting them out anyway. So just keep that in mind. All the knowledge is coming from, of course, this man here. So of course, just, keep listening. Of course, we'll be able to, portray all the info as tightly as possible. So.
And I think this next section, we can actually just do a lot live in Google itself.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Then the second thing that we're going to talk about is how to find competitors' rich results and then reverse engineer their schema markup basically from that. So, what is schema? What is rich results? Well, rich results, if you search like any recipe.
Let's go back out. Where did you go? Okay, so we're going to go back out and.
Yeah, let's go to a browser if we can first.
Okay. So here we go.
Okay, cool. So, if you search for any like recipe, for example, the one I had in the presentation, I think it's like gluten-free brownie recipe. Okay. So with a lot of recipes, you'll see that this is a good example to see what is the difference between a featured snippet and a rich result. So this is a featured snippet as we spoke about. But these are actually rich results in the regular organic listings. So they're similar in the fact that they are visual elements, that they really stand out in the search. But rich results typically pull from Schema Markup, which is basically code on the back end, which says explicitly what the page is about. And there can be rich results, like if we look at, events, like if we're looking at what are some events in Philadelphia, I almost guarantee that this is going to bring up an events rich result. And it does. So here you'll see this is an events rich result. So there's over 30 rich results that are supported by Google at this time. And but let's just go with just kind of stick with this example. If you want to basically reverse engineer how these different companies were able to get a rich result, you can look at their schema and basically learn a lot from that. So with this one, I would first look through at all these and say you're like a gluten-free chocolate company and you have a really good gluten-free brownie recipe, but it's not showing up here. Maybe it's showing up on the second or third page, or maybe it's even showing up on the front page and you're not getting all of the nice kind of visual elements that people get when they do have a nice full rich result. So maybe you look at, pick a good one. Maybe you're looking at this one, One Lovely Life. So what you do would basically copy this, and then you would put this into what's called the Rich Results Test by Google. This is similar to the structured data test tool that you might be familiar with, but this is actually replacing that as the structured data testing tool is being deprecated. So anyway, you basically just copy the URL into the rich results tool. And then this is a really great tool. One, if you're adding Schema Markup to get rich results, you'll be able to preview the rich results in this tool, and it will also give you some insight into if there's any errors or any warnings in your markup. So very, very valuable tool. But what we're going to try to do is try to reverse engineer actually the schema from that article, because once again, ours, let's just to continue this example, doesn't have Schema Markup, but we want to get similar rich results by using Schema Markup of another competitor. So I think since we're live streaming this test is taking longer. But a new part of the rich results tool. So you'll see that now that it loaded, it says the page is eligible for rich results. If you want to preview, you can do it. Not my computer, so it's a little. So you can see it there in a preview. But what we want to look at, and this gets a little bit more technical, but it's good to just know this exists if you ever need to kind of look this up. First, you can see the structured data that was parsed out by Google. So this is really important because you can see all of that information. And once you have it in a structured data form like this, with a recipe, it's the ingredients, it's the instructions, it's the cook time, the prep time. This is all, once you have that data in a structured form, then Google will be more likely to give you a SERP feature with it because they have confidence that this data is accurate, versus if they're just parsing it and pulling it from like a kind of a more free-form article. But to get to the Schema Markup, to make a long story short, you basically just click the magnifying glass icon, and then this will actually show you directly the JSON script. It's a little hard to see in this result, but it's actually not that scary when you get into it. So we won't kind of dive into the weeds on this, but you can get all the JSON script here. And then you can basically just like copy and paste this script and then go into the rich results test, the homepage again, and then copy and paste the code into the code, and then basically personalize it to make it your own. So obviously you change out the title to your title, you change out the URL to your title, for example, and I don't think I copied it correctly. But basically, this is a live editor right in the code tab of the rich results test tool. So you can basically personalize the code here and then test it, even without having it live on your site. Once you are testing it and everything looks good there and you're not getting any errors, then you can basically put it into the header of your own web page, and then you're good to go. And then you'll become eligible, and most likely you will get the rich result that whatever competitor that you showed basically had. So I mean, studies show in terms of results that that once you do get some of these rich results, that click-throughs can increase anywhere from 10 to 35%, especially if you have stars. Assuming that you're getting good ratings, a caveat is that if your stars are 3 stars or below, it can actually decrease click-through rate.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, if you're going to be on the front page, most likely you will have kind of 3 stars or above. So these can really help you to increase your click-through rate. And then, so this is something really good, really insightful. Whenever I kind of provide this insights from a competitive analysis tool for clients, they really get a lot of a lot of use, and it's very helpful and something that a lot of times they don't think about doing. So this is something that can be a really good thing to add into your competitive analysis. And I would recommend that you try it out for yourself. That you maybe recipe is a very complex schema markup because there's so many different things that they're capturing, but organization schema is a good kind of starter schema to start with. So you can just go to you can go to my site, OnDeer, or any other, OnDeer.com. It rhymes with John Deere if you don't know how to pronounce it, by the way. And it's spelled ONDYR. But you can go to my site and basically just copy and paste the URL from there. And then you can put that into there and get my organization schema code. And then, just change out the founder and the URL and everything else there. And then you can basically try it out for yourself. And then once you have that with all of your contact information, you can apply that to the header and then get a rich result for organization schema too.
So to bounce off of that, if you had a client that wanted to rank highly, for gluten-free brownie recipe,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say? What else would you add to that? To stand out on search, because you want to make sure the competitive analysis, and you want to stand out in general and have that higher click-through rate.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you say? What else?
Yeah, I mean, so the major thing you can do is one, I think you can do for this specific area, it's really going to be with schema markup to make sure you get the rich results. You want to make sure that you really have a comprehensive schema markup listing. So you want to fill it out as much as possible. So you have prep time, you have cook time, you have caloric information, you nutritional information. In general, to stand out in the search, I mean, if you're talking about outside of rich results, you could look at testing different, title tags and meta descriptions, because of course that's the information that typically pulls for the SERP results here.
Mm-hmm.
You can also try to get the featured snippet, for that as well. Another thing that you can do also is, obviously we're seeing more and more videos that are pulled in to the SERPs.
Yeah.
So adding a video to your recipe can really make it stand out, and then you can occupy more real estate in the SERPs. But I would first, if that is your goal, to look at before you invest a lot of time and effort into a video. If you're prioritizing, I would look at SERP results that already have video carousels or videos that are highlighted, whether it's a rich result video or a video carousel.
Okay.
Because you want to look at Google first and then kind of work backwards from there with your SEO strategy. As we're looking through a lot of these SERPs. So those are things in general, to stand out in SERPs. In terms of your overall company, though, as we go into our next thing, if you do implement that organization schema, and also you do the next thing that we're going to talk about, the Google My Business profile, and you optimize that, that's a really good place to start. So I guess with that, we can kind of move on to the third area of the topic and talk about Google My Business. So Google My Business, if you're looking at, by the way, is everyone seeing the browser?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So if you search Empire State Building, for example, you can see an example of a pretty full Google My Business profile or knowledge panel on the right-hand side. So depending on if it's a local business or a more established company, will be a knowledge panel versus more of a local business Google My Business profile. But here you can see a lot of the information is filled out here. So it's super visual. These are getting a lot of engagement from what I've seen in clients, and I still see though a lot of companies aren't either claiming their knowledge panel or their Google My Business listing, and even if they've claimed it, it's either not verified or they haven't really optimized it to its fullest, and they're making the maximum use out of all the different sections that are there. So Some of the things that, first of all, in terms of a stat, one thing that I found in my research is that, businesses with a complete and accurate Google My Business profile actually get 7 times the amount of clicks, and as if it's not optimized, and 2.7 times are considered to be a more reputable company. And especially a lot of you are marketers out there, you might be a consultant or might work for an agency. I mean, being reputable is really in the name of the game. So this is something that can really increase that, but really for any organization, for any business, that's important. So in order to do that, here are some recommendations. One is that it's a relatively new aspect of Google My Business profile to have posts. So here you'll see that Empire State Building has posts here, which are basically like mini, like blog posts, basically, where you can share an image, where you can share a little news clip, a timely announcement. I don't love how Empire State Building does it here, because these are just all offers, which are great, but I would really incorporate that with more kind of non-promotional content as well. But here you can see, what are like some examples of posts. So as I mentioned, share a picture, share a news, share or share a deal or an offer. You can add a picture. You can add a description that's up to 1,500 characters. You can add a price and even a nice call to action here as well. So these are getting a lot of engagement. And not only are these going to be on the SERP, but they can also actually be indexed and be in the regular search results too here. So you might see them show up here as well, just for someone who's not searching for your company or your business. Obviously, a big thing is reviews. So if you just want to ask people for reviews, we see that stars, as I talked about in the statistic, stars can actually increase the engagement by 35%. So ask people for reviews, get more reviews. The more reviews, assuming that they're good reviews, of course, will lead to higher engagement. And then, of course, you can click through here to get to the full text reviews of those. But also a cool thing that has recently been launched by Google My Business is you can get a short link to your Google My Business account. By a short link, it's just g.page, and then you can put in whatever phrase is free. So it can actually be a non-branded term as well. So there's actually a bit of like a land grab at this point for people for like non-brand, having like local SEO be your kind of handle, just like it was in like the original kind of social media account days.
Yeah.
I
mean, I would just
way back then. I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if I would go that route. I mean, your probably safest bet is just to have it be, your business name. But if you want to do that route and kind of get like a really kind of short handle, could be work for some businesses. But that's something to definitely check out. Get a short link. That'll make it an easier request for people instead of giving them the super gigantic link to to the regular Google My Business URL. Other things you can do to optimize, you want to make sure you have a nice description. So the description, and this one's pulling from Wikipedia, but if you don't have a Wikipedia, it's just going to pull from your Google My Business account. And you get 750 characters, but keep in mind, they only show 250 on most instances, like here, for example. So you want to make sure that the first 250 stand on their own and tell the full story. But then if people do want to click through to the full kind of 750 character list as well, you can have it there. So one thing, I don't know if they have it here, but one new thing that you can do also that's really beneficial. One of the things I did for one of my clients recently is added products. So if you search for Angelic Bakehouse, I actually added products to their listing as well. So this is just a great way to do on-SERP optimization.
There you go.
And you can have products right on SERP. And these are getting a lot of engagement too. So you can click through to these and get like a full description, a CTA to learn more. You see the price there. Yeah, you can even
I love the address right there.
That's true. You got the address. So you get a lot of, you can have collections here. So this is like the full collection. So I see very, very few people doing this. And just an easy way. This took, not that much time, maybe an hour or two to kind of input this all. I wish that this pulled from the same feed for AdWords for your merchant feed. It doesn't at this time. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case in the future. But, that's another great way is to add products into your kind of Google My Business account to make sure that that's optimized. So, I want to wrap up and leave some time for questions. But, other things you can do, obviously in general, you want to hit the basics. Make sure you have photos and videos, if you can, in your Google My Business profile. Make sure all the information is accurate, and that everything's matching up. The name, address, and phone number are really important that they match across the board. If you're into local SEO, you know that. So to kind of tie up any of the loose ends, in order to optimize for your on SERP SEO from competitive analysis, first I would recommend finding featured snippets of competitors, what they're showing for, and then overtake them with some of the best practices that we mentioned. And to find them, you can use a lot of these great tools like the position tracking tool, like Keyword Magic tool, and like Sensor in Semrush itself. In addition to that, I would also look at rich results to stand out in search and do that kind of reverse engineering using the rich results test tool. And then lastly, I would optimize your Google My Business profile to make sure that it's better than any of the competitors. And if you incorporate this into your competitive analysis, and then eventually into your strategic SEO plan, again, I think you're going to be above 95+% of businesses and SEOs out there, and will help you just to get better clicks, because we are seeing overall that overall clicks are decreasing, all things equal. But if you do add these special feature snippets and SERP features, you will see versus competitors that you're going to get a lot more clicks than competitors, outperform them, and everyone's going to be happy. So with that, I'd be happy to kind of open it up if there's any questions and take them.
Yeah. Okay. So one moment. Okay, so there's a little lag. Hey, this is live. So I know we had a follow-up question. So Stephen, in your own opinion, what's the best schema to use for a small, local, service-based company?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say?
Yeah, with that, I would definitely start off with the organization schema. So the organization schema, in conjunction with a really optimized Google My Business profile, will get you an optimized listing in search, as we spoke about. So that's good to start off with. And then I would go to schema.org and just do a search of all the different schema types that are available. There's over 600 schema types available. As I mentioned, 30 rich results are powered by schema right now in Google. So I would go through either schema.org, or if you just want to look at the 30 that are currently supported by Google, I actually have an article on my blog if you want to check that out. There are some resources on Google development resources that, not to plug my own website, but that's just the place where I would go. There's also developer resources, which are a little bit more technical, but if you are trying to approach it from that standpoint, you go to Google Developer Resources, and they list all the 30 out. But I would say start with organization schema, and then it really depends on what type of business. And then, you can add, if you're doing events, an event schema. If you are having, job postings, you can have a job posting schema and really optimize it that way as well.
Didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and there's literally 600 of them. And even if they don't show up for a rich result, I still would recommend that you add schema. And that's something that we focus on at OnDeer. So again, if you have any kind of questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to kind of answer questions you have about schema. It's one of the specialties of our business. But yeah, we can definitely put together a plan for you, or have you kind of focus on what are the best schema for you in order to get the best rich results.
Yeah, great. All right.
I actually do have one question about that. The time frame. You could spend, let's say, 30+ hours learning schema, learning how to implement it, everything like that. Once you're all done with that and you implement it into your site, how long does it take for really Google to kind of recognize you and all of this?
Yeah, this time Google is very much a real-time algorithm in terms of its the search engine. So of course they first need to know that it exists and that you made the change.
Yeah.
So one thing, after you implement the schema, I would go into the rich results tool and first test it to make sure that there's no errors or warnings in the schema markup itself. Once you have that and you added it to your site, the next thing is you want to request indexing from Google Search Console, right? So you go into Google Search Console, request them to re-index your page if it's a new page, or just to index it for the first page if it's a new piece of content. And then I see that typically it's mostly instantaneous. So
okay.
You become eligible right away. You're not guaranteed to get a rich result just by adding Schema Markup. But if it's something that they typically have, like if it's a recipe, you're probably going to get it right away. So typically I request index. I can look at the SERP in 2 minutes later, and it's updated with stars and caloric information and prep time and all those things that we added for a recipe. So it can be really, really quick these days if you just basically refresh it with Google Search Console.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah. Great. Okay. We have a lot about Google My Business. A lot of questions pouring in. Thank you, Stephen. So here's one. Does having Q&A on Google My Business listing help with rankings and or getting a better click-through rate? What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't think it would have like a direct factor. I don't think it's a verified factor from anything I've heard of.
Or you've experienced?
Algorithm. Yeah, it's nothing that I've seen. I've definitely seen it drive traffic in terms of not Q&A specifically, but in terms of, like I mentioned, the products and the posts are where I've seen the most traffic come through, because those nice call to actions, which the Q&A doesn't. So I think it would definitely increase your brand awareness. I think it would help your overall kind of marketing. But I don't think that at this point that it's a factor in Google rankings, and that it would increase your overall ranking. But I still think that it could improve your click-through rate. So that's something that it could get you more clicks, which at the end of the day is what you're going after. So I think it will definitely help you out.
Yes. Okay, awesome. And then another one about featured snippets. So do featured snippets or rich results have any influence on your visibility in terms of voice search?
Yeah, so there actually is a Schema Markup that is related to actually speakable content. And then if you do have structured data and markup and rich results for things like recipes, that can also make you eligible to actually, in like Google Assistant, to have their recipe pop up. So when you do like a voice scale in Voice Assistant, it's pulling from that same information.
Wow.
I use it every day. every night, pretty much. It's great.
Yeah, so optimizing for featured snippets and for rich results is at the same time basically optimizing for voice search, because with voice answers, they're going to be pulling from the featured snippet a lot of the times, because they're pulling that position 0 or like the first answer and giving an excerpt of that. And yeah, with rich results, they're also, because once they have that structured data and they're confident about what that data is, they're going to use it in every chance that they can, because it just helps them, just like it helps us.
Yeah.
So those feed directly into voice search and the Google Assistant skills and actions.
Okay, and last one, and remember guys, you can always email in to digitalrush@semrush.com, and we'll also have Stephen's email in the slides. Is it just Stephen at?
Yeah, it's just Stephen at OnDeer.com. So Stephen with a PH at ONDYR.com.
And we'll have all of that soon underneath the video, the link with the slides and his email. But one last one, someone was wondering, what is the best way to deal with negative reviews? Like bad reviews that you have. What can you do with GMB?
Yeah, so with GMB, there's a couple things. One, I would get real familiar with what are the Google guidelines on leaving a bad review. If it's like a disgruntled employee, that's against the guidelines, because that's not the purpose of Google reviews. The purpose of Google reviews is to review the product or service, it's not a Glassdoor. So if it's get really kind of clear with what are the Google guidelines, and look if it's something that's against the guidelines. If so, then it's something that you can basically put in a ticket to Google Search, to the Google My Business team, to the support team, and then request them to remove that. So one, I would do the form that you can do to kind of flag the review. You can't put a lot of information, but you can at least say it's a review because maybe it's a conflict of interest, maybe it's a competitor. Maybe it's like hateful speech, so it's just not appropriate. So there's a couple different kind of checkpoints. You can't go into detail about why it's against the guidelines, but you can basically flag it. If you don't hear back from them, because it's like a team in, I don't know, overseas, I think, and they get, I'm sure, a ton of requests, then I would follow up and call the Google My Business team directly on the phone, and then you can basically escalate the issues. I've gotten several of reviews taken down when they're just basically inappropriate or for some reason against Google guidelines. But if it is a review that's just about your product and service and is negative, there's probably not a whole lot you can do about that if it is just a legitimate kind of bad review from a customer.
Mm-hmm. Would you also, I know you can reply back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What do you think that's a good way too, just to be like,
absolutely,
like offer a
as soon as
discount
possible,
or maybe
probably too. Don't let it really sit. I mean, personally, from what I've seen in my previous days of being an SEO, the faster you respond to that, the more diligent you can be with addressing those concerns, before that does, keep piling up, because it may be a reoccurring issue.
Mm-hmm.
But if you kind of get an idea of what the issue could have been, whether it is with a product of yours or a service, it's like, of course, tackling that as soon as possible.
Yeah, and show that it's improved, or you see other reviews above it,
right.
Like, okay, that's not happening, that's not occurring again. I see it with restaurants a lot now.
Yep.
With just one, you could have a bad server, it happens, and they write about it, but then they comment underneath, and you see that, and it reassures you kind of, knowing like, okay, blah, 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 like here's a free appetizer. I know it's not, totally, fixing everything, but hey, at least you're addressing it, and that does reassure, I feel like, some customers.
And on the flip side, I've seen people reply, but they reply in a negative defensive way.
Ooh,
so
I don't think that's ever good. Just like with trolls in general, we know you're out there. I'm not saying anyone is here, but don't feed into that. Because you're amazing and you're great at the end of the day.
Keep it high level, keep it positive.
Yes.
If you reply. But I think that's a great point. And definitely reply to basically all reviews if you can, but especially the negative reviews, and just show that you care about your customer feedback and that you're kind of taking steps to improve.
Yes, and we're constantly growing and improving every day. Besides SEO ourselves, gotta stay positive.
Definitely.
Yes. So Stephen, any last remarks or anything you want to say? The points we went through real quick, just to remind everyone.
Sure. Yeah. Just to kind of tie up all the loose strings, I would recommend one, that you check for featured snippets of competitors in SES and the Semrush tools. One, you would look at for the first one, if you're going to look at anyone from a competitive analysis standpoint, is a position tracking tool.
Yeah.
Secondly, I would use a rich results tool to either test your schema markup or reverse engineer competitors' schema markup, so you get rich results. That will really allow you to stand out in search in addition to the feature snippets. And then with the Google My Business, as we just spoke about, really make the most out of the real estate that Google's providing you for. Claim your accounts, first of all. Make sure the information is accurate, yes, but also go a step, a step above and beyond. And if you have products or services, posts. Those are something that will really just increase your visual, enhancements of your SERP presence, and then it will also actually lead to engagement and clicks at the end of the day to your site, to supplement those clicks that are decreasing because there are some answers directly on search. So to get those back, I think if you do those three things that we spoke about, you'll be in a really good position.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
well, thank you for having me. It's been great. So
learned a lot today.
Yeah, that we're even learning,
great.
Guys. Yeah, this is great for us. Why not? So thank you guys so much for attending. We'll have the slides shortly underneath the YouTube link. And also thank you again, Stephen, for coming by.
Thank you for having me.
Literally coming to the office. Yes. Yeah, we'll get you some swag later. But bye, guys. We'll have another webinar soon in a few months. We'll keep you posted. And everyone have a great rest of their day.
Alrighty. Bye.
All right. See you guys.